I guess it's fair to say that I've used my OLED monitor quite a bit since I've got it about a year ago. It's the LG 27GR95QE and it has clocked up 1223 hours to be exact. So yeah, how bad is the burn-in? Has the maximum brightness gone down? Did the colors degrade? These are some of the things I want to talk about, and we're going to take a look at some color slides in a minute to see if there actually is any visible degradation. But I also want to share some of the good and bad experiences I've had with basically daily driving an OLED monitor for about a year. Now for some context, I've probably been treating my monitor slightly worse than others might do. First up, I've been running the contrast tweak pretty much the whole time, so my maximum full screen brightness is about 5% higher, putting more strain on the panel. And yeah, I've been using the monitor not only for gaming and content consumption, but also a lot for writing scripts, working on spreadsheets, and video editing, which isn't something I'd really recommend doing on an OLED display. And yeah, it's actually running in the background right now with a static wallpaper. And I've had it running like this a few times for other videos as well. I've also disabled the sleep mode in Windows, which is a bit risky, I have to admit, but I left the monitor's own screensaver option turned on. And I'm still trying my best to turn off the monitor whenever I'm leaving my desk for a few minutes. And that's also one of the biggest drawbacks of using an OLED monitor. Like there's this itch, you know, that you've got to avoid static content as much as possible or the screen might burn in. With a plain normal LCD monitor, I'm surely not gonna bother turning it off every time I'm leaving my desk for just a few minutes. And I'm also not gonna have the taskbar on auto hide or change my wallpaper every other week. But these are the things you're probably gonna do with an OLED monitor, or at the very least, feel bad about it if you don't. So despite those measures, did I abuse this monitor enough to get visible burn-in, or permanent electroluminescent layer degradation to be a bit more specific? First, I manually started a short compensation cycle to make sure that there is no temporary image retention that could be mistaken for permanent degradation. And well, here's the 50% gray slide. And I think it actually looks very clean. Like there's some aliasing, which is caused by the camera, and also a tiny bit of dirty screen effect, but I really cannot spot any burn-in artifacts here. It's a similar story with the 5% gray slide, but the YouTube compression is probably messing a bit with this one, so I have a link to all these slides in the video description in case you want to look at them in more detail. Now the color slides also don't show any visible degradation. Of course, we're gonna check if the colors still are as saturated as they used to be in a bit, but at the very least, there are no visible burn-in artifacts. I think that's great news. Like this monitor has seen quite a bit of static content, lots of Valorant, and the UI elements didn't leave a trace, and I don't see any signs of the UI elements of Notion or DaVinci Resolve either, which I both use a lot. Now to put this into perspective, the 1200 something hours I've clocked up on my monitor are roughly equivalent to about 8 hours a week for 3 years. And 7 to 8 hours per week is a figure you often find being quoted as the average time that gamers spend gaming. So if you're such an average gamer, you'll probably be fine using this monitor for at least 3 years. If you'd be using it for your 9 to 5 though, hence 40 hours a week, my usage hours would be roughly equivalent to just 7 months, with probably even more static content than my monitor has seen. 3 years of using it 9 to 5 would be over 6,000 hours. So yeah, no idea how my monitor will look like after 6k hours, but hopefully it's still fine. Now burn-in is only one potential issue. Decreased color saturation or a lower maximum brightness could also be a problem after a lot of usage. So here's the color gamut volume from the original measurement added just after a few hours. And 1200 hours later, well, it's still the same, which is great to see. But what about the brightness? Well, there was a firmware update in the meantime, which was supposed to change the brightness under certain conditions, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, that update didn't really have an effect under these conditions, it seems. And 1200 hours later, it's still the same. And here's what it looks like in HDR. It's just as bright as on day one. I mean, this wasn't the brightest monitor to begin with, so it's especially great to see that it didn't lose any brightness. Now I'm also very happy to report that the text quality has actually improved, at least in a few programs. Of course, the weird pixel structure of OLED isn't something you can change with a firmware update, but the software support for it is slowly improving, which has a huge impact on the quality of text. Like previously, most text looked like this, showing pretty heavy fringing. But this is what it looks like now, at least in the Notion and Spotify Windows apps, which both must have made some changes in how they render text, probably as a response to OLED monitors getting much more popular, I'd assume. And people are figuring out how to configure programs like MacType to improve text in other applications. So text in some programs looks great without changing anything now, and with a few tweaks, you can make a lot of the text you see in other applications look pretty much perfect now, but that's probably a topic for another video. So yeah, some people say the early adopters are basically beta testing these OLED monitors, and they kinda have a point. Like we're just getting an idea of how many hours you can use these things until you're gonna have visible burn-in artifacts. I mean, back when I got this monitor, I had no idea how it would look like 1200 hours later. I'm very happy that it's still looking flawless, but I guess that it could also went in a different direction. And the software support for the OLED pixel layouts is only very slowly starting to catch up. But yeah, despite of all that, I'm still very much enjoying this monitor, especially so for competitive gaming, and I'm probably gonna continue using it as my main monitor. Maybe it'll get replaced by one of the next-gen OLEDs, I don't know, we'll see. Thanks for watching, bis zum nächsten Video.